connection with younger students, not much younger, but younger. So wondered if, we could start now. If any of you have any questions you wanna raise, yes?
So I missed the case this morning at 11, the Kenneth Barber case. Thank you. The Kenneth Barber case, and it mimics a case that we studied last semester in appellate advocacy, Rodney Class versus the United States of America, where a guilty plea should not foreclose on the right to challenge the constitutionality of a statute. This case mimics that very well. So my question is, how much would the Vermont Supreme Court look to that case or other cases similar to that in helping to guide their decision in this particular case today, if you can answer that because of the hearing today?
Yeah, it's the last part of your question that I'm probably a little bit concerned about. I think that's the risk that we run doing this, is that if we begin talking about the cases, it begins to draw a little bit of a blurry line. But maybe one of my colleagues has a comment.
I wouldn't have any comment on that question, but in general, I mean, we a lot of the issues in front of us, if they're federal constitutional issues, obviously we look at the U.S. Supreme Court's decisions because that guides us, and if there are issues involving things like statutes or rules to which we have analogs in Vermont, then we consider them for their persuasive authority, even though they may not be binding, and take them for what they're worth. I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
that's sort of the general answer. I don't know if that is satisfying.
Here's your chance.
No, actually,
whatever you like.
not related to the cases is better.
My name is Usman Khan. I'm a 2L here. I've been here for a while now. I know you guys have been practicing law for a while. It's a bit broad and specific now. So it's always, the question is like law and what, It's not just like you're an attorney. It's a lawyer in what specific field. I'm trying to still figure out. I have a specific goal I have in mind in my couple years after school, but I'm still trying to figure out career endeavors. You guys have you've been practicing, you've been exposed to a lot of different areas. What advice you'd give to help find a specific area where I'd be passionate about? I guess, can I ask? It's open to,
You've got a thought, I can tell.
I'll just tell you my own history. I mean, when I started practicing law, I really had no specific objective. That may have been evident from one of the answers I gave this morning that Justice Carroll disagreed with me about. I certainly had no specific objective. And as a matter of fact, I started practicing in Vermont in 1976. I was admitted in Massachusetts before that and practiced a couple of years down there. But if you would ask me in the mid-90s, do you see yourself as ever being a judge, let alone a Supreme Court justice, let alone a Chief Justice? I would have said, no, there's no chance of that. So I tell clerks, I tell my clerks and interns and students frequently that I think your professional life is about trying to make choices that create opportunity for you. And so I think as you go through your career, you encounter a number of different forks in the road, if you will, where there's a choice to be made. But the choice is not a make or break choice in the sense that if I go left, I'm never going to be able to go right. Or if I go right, I don't think it works that way. I think the way it works is you make the best choice you can. You look for opportunities that create additional choices, and you keep going through the process like that. I'll let my friends disagree with me.
I think one thing that law students often do is they say, I liked torts class, so I'm going to be a tort lawyer. I would say, I think far more important than the subject matter is the types of clients you'll be representing. And one of the things you need to figure out about yourself is, how do you want to spend your time as a lawyer with what kinds of clients? If you're somebody who would feel comfortable with kind of institutional or sort of clients like being an attorney, being with the state, not having like individuals, That's an important thing to know about yourself. If you're somebody who really thrives on the individual interaction with sort of people, like ordinary people who have problems, that's going to send you down a different path. And it may be a path that combines lots of different subject areas that you've studied. But I urge you to try to figure out that about yourself.
And let me just, I'll add one more thing, and I agree, I forget whether it was Duke or Karen or Marilyn that said, or Beth that said this morning, but your reputation in this business is everything. And that, to me, is how you're going to define yourself, your reputation for honesty, for fairness, for judgment, for integrity. That is an extremely important thing, and that is really your stock in trade. You know, because the two things that I think are really distinguishing features of our profession, and the reason why the Legal Zooms of the world are not going to overtake what you and I are doing, is expertise in specific areas of the law, but the other thing is confidentiality. We have confidential relationships under our rules that are honored and revered in many different respects. Our confidential relationships with clients is an extremely important thing. If you can see why your reputation would bear on that analysis. There's a sign that it's done.
What's the one piece of advice you wish advocates coming before you would keep in mind?
Appellate advocates? Remember, we've read everything. Don't insult us by going through the facts again. We've read everything. We've read trial transcripts. Get to the point. Get to the argument about why we should decide the case one way or the other.
This was said this morning when we spoke to the group, I think by Justice Ian, but advocates should acknowledge when a fact or a piece of law doesn't support the position of the advocate, and to acknowledge that and work around it or explain why that's not that important in the given case.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here and doing this for us again every year. Nice to see you too, Justice. It's my last year here, and it's an honor to be here. But my question is, as an outgoing law student as well, you have law clerks that support you through your process. What are the features of a law clerk that you want the most, and you would think is advantageous to support you going forward? And there's a lot of students here that are looking into clerkships, and I know we've spoken before. A lot of students don't even know that opportunity is available to do that as well. But what are your opinions on that? Thank you.
I am fairly new to the court. It'll be a year next month. And I kind of inherited a law clerk that my predecessor had hired, but I made the decision to keep her on. And I feel like the thing that she does that is most helpful to me is disagree with me. So I don't learn anything, because I learned from my law clerk. I don't learn anything, and I don't look at things necessarily a different way unless she challenges me on it. I mean, clearly I look at all the issues in the case, but I mean, I might have my mind made up, but her going over the case with me and explaining why she doesn't agree with me is very, very helpful to me. So I feel like law clerks should do that as often as they can.
You have to write really well. And I know some schools tell students not to put their extracurricular activities into their curriculum vitae or their resumes. When you get up to this level, as the writing sample has been read, your grades have been examined, by the time you get up here, we all know you're smart enough to be our law clerks. I want to know that you got a real life going on outside, that you're not just a total nerd. So,
All right, we're gonna go.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.